So we're going to start working some later stage defenses. So as a quick recap again, all of our early phase defenses are based on our opponent not having all the connections. In case you're confused, guys, there are three main connections he's looking to attain from top turtle. He's looking to get his hip connected to my hip. This controls my hips. He's looking to get his chest, sternum connected to my spine. And he's looking to get his seatbelt here. The alternative for the seatbelt, which is direct control, is lever-based control, which would be in the form of the motorcycle grip on the far side. This gives him rotational control, okay? So our first three defenses that we looked at were super early stage, right? Meaning he was passing. As he was passing, he didn't make any meaningful connections, and that allowed me to first Granby. Secondly, if he starts to get his hips close, I'm using my hook and frame to create distance between the two of us. And then again, off of this defense, guys, you can Granby or you can just turn in and you can get back to whatever position you feel comfortable with, right? If you want to wrestle, you can just break his posture and come back up, or I can just swivel back to my butt, whatever you want. And the last option was the 2-on-1, okay? And the 2-on-1 is kind of a turtle killer, right? As he's reaching in, he can't take my back, right? Go ahead and take my back, coach. Okay, because I have control of this wrist and I'm pushing it away from me, that's giving me opposite corner rotational control. I'm rotating this corner away as he's trying to keep this corner on me. So what are we looking for? Remember, our main concepts for turtle defense is number one, protect yourself from the choke, and then number two, create a disconnection between the two of you so that you can go out through that disconnection and escape. So by pushing this arm away, the only way that he can start to move is to disconnect his hips from mine. Connects the hips, he allows me to escape. So what we're going to work on now is going to be a little bit of a more deep sort of defense. Particularly, we're going to look at when our partner starts to switch into the attack posture. And if you're unfamiliar, guys, the control posture is where he has the knee down. And go ahead and get the seatbelt grip there, coach. Okay, here's his control posture. He has all three main forms of connection, hip to hip, sternum to spine, and then a sort of upper body control here. The attack posture is when he switches his hips and he uses his knee to wedge behind my butt. His objective is to pull me into him and start to set up his low hook, high hook, and then take my back. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a little knee elbow roll as our opponent is pulling us out of base. We already talked about our proper alignment for the bottom turtle, meaning when I'm in this position, the orientation of my hands, I want to be leaning away from him slightly so that he can't just pull me into him. But again, sometimes that just won't work. So when we're here, go into the control position. As my partner starts to switch their hips and pull me into them, we're going to tuck our knee to our elbow and we're going to roll over top of them to try to get our body to the other side. Now, against an unskilled opponent, we can just clear our forearm across their hips and then come up on top. But again, against someone who knows how to take backs, they're going to follow your back, which we'll look at in a second. Okay? So again, we're here. You know, I'm staying in good alignment here, base posture structure. Again, I'm talking to you guys, but our forehead would be on the floor. But as soon as I feel my partner's hips start to switch and I feel him starting to suck me into him, I'm going to look to connect my knees to my elbows. And remember, knee-elbow connection, we're always looking to maintain that in jiu-jitsu. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to roll across his body. So I'm going to think about it like this. I'm on the farthest side of coach right now. When he pulls me, I want to be on the other side of him. So as he goes, I don't want to be a stiff, solid structure. Because by being super, super stiff, I'm one solid object, which is actually going to be easier for him to pull and move around. So I want to be loose. I want to be relaxed. So as he goes to suck me in, knees to chest, and then I kick my feet over. Okay? As soon as we land here in this position, I'm making sure that I keep my elbows in tight. I do not want to give him that motorcycle grip. Okay? And I don't want him to start getting hooks. So I need to make sure that I'm keeping my elbows in tight. Again, we never reach in between the legs. Okay, this is not a smart idea. He's going to immediately start looking for the crucifix. If he's not a good grappler, if he's not a good back taker, we're just going to bring that elbow across the center line and then scoot our hips back. If he is a good back taker, he's going to start, like if you guys remember from last Friday, we did our following the back drill. He's going to start walking his legs away to get parallel with me. Okay? As he starts walking his hips away from me, just like we do for our basic back defense. If I put my back on the ground, he's no longer on my back. So now it's just a matter of what is he going to do. He's probably going to try to come up on top, so I can just feed him right to half guard. Okay, so if you guys don't quite remember, our back escape primary concept is getting the back to the floor, scraping them off of us. It's the exact same thing here. As he looks to go parallel to follow my back, I'm just going to scrape my back along the floor and hopefully put him back in half guard. Okay, so one more time, he's going to have a fully locked up control position. In case we forget, guys, what you're aiming to do, the person on top, you're going to switch your legs. You're going to slide your left knee, in this case his left knee, parallel to my leg, and he's going to wedge his right knee behind my butt. He wants me to be leaning forward. He's looking to do the lever back take here, where he's going to open up my leg here and pull me into him. Okay, this is what Coach Seth is trying to do. As soon as I feel him starting to pull my weight into him, though, I tuck my knees in and I come across to the other side. Okay, notice my elbows are still tight. I don't want my arms dangling out over here. I'm going to give him a lot of lever control by doing that. So I'm tight. I can clear the hips and come up, or as he starts to go parallel, I'm going to look to scrape my back along the ground, and then as he comes up to the half guard, I'm just looking. I've escaped from the turtle. All right, I'll show it again without talking. Here we go. Okay, again, yeah, top person, don't just settle. Always fight to get to a top position, okay? So when your opponents, when the bottom person is looking to scrape their back on the ground, always try to come up on top, so that way you can somehow establish some form of control. Okay, I'll do one more from the opposite angle. Okay, and so I can get back to whatever type of guard I want. Here we go with single leg X. You know, we can go butterfly, whatever you can find yourself in. And again, worst case scenario, they're going to end up mounted or side mounted. That's fine. They're not on the back anymore. Okay, they were never able to get to the back, so we're still in a pretty decent position. Any questions, guys?
Yes, sir.
All right, so knee elbow roll. Ready, 1, 2. Let's get it. Okay, so we're going to move on, but I want to go over one little note here. That is, we call this the knee elbow roll because our knees and elbows need to be connected. Some of us were allowing our knees and elbows to come flared apart, like we were riding on a roller coaster. So the problem with this is that if I'm going against a good back taker, if I let my arms and legs come apart, as we start to roll, he's going to barrel roll and get hooks in, right? If I start to roll over top of him and I don't have my knees and elbows connected, oops, I just gave him exactly what he was looking for. So what we're looking for, guys, is the knee and elbows to stay in. You're already there, right? Remember, our alignment for bottom turtle is to keep our elbows in between our knees, so that way we're denying him the lever access of the one-on-one motorcycle grip here for that rotational control on the shoulder. I'm just going to maintain this ball, essentially. And so go ahead and connect there, Coach. So as he goes to switch and roll, look, I'm staying tight the entire way over. So I was denying the hooks the entire time. Again, once we're here, if he's just sitting there and chilling, I'm just going to come up. If he's adamant about trying to get to the back, I'm just going to look to scrape him off and put my back on the ground. All right, does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Wow, I didn't recognize you for a second, man. I like your haircut.
Man, everyone coming in with the new fresh cuts today.
Love that. All right, so any questions on that knee elbow roll? So now let's get a little bit deeper now. Wow, redundant. All right, so next we're going to look at our underhook. Okay, so this one is going to be a little bit more, you could call it nebulous, kind of like the knee frame and the 2-on-1 grip, because you're going to have a lot of different ways you can finish this. We're just going to look to get an underhook from the turtle, okay? But here's how it's going to start. When my opponent has all connections, okay, so again, as a review, hip to hip, chest to chest, and then upper body control, either with a seatbelt or with the one-on-one. If I can get an underhook in between the two of us, he can't take my back because I'm essentially putting a wall up in between us. Now the problem is that his hip is connected to my hip. So what we're going to look to do is we're going to look to give a little bump as we change our hip angle to get an underhook and immediately go into attack a single. All right? Again, my head would be on the floor here. Okay? So I'm going to demonstrate slow motion. As I bump, I get my underhook, and I immediately come in and connect for a single leg here. All right? And now, again, up to you guys. What do you want to do after that? If you know how to wrestle with the single from the knees, that's fine. If you want to try to build up to the feet to wrestle the single, that's cool too. But similar to that 2-on-1 grip, I'm looking to just connect myself to him in a way that he can't progress to my back. All right, so slow motion, I'll walk us through it. So what I'm looking to do is I'm looking to get my arm closest to him underneath to get an underhook. I, of course, will not reach underneath his leg. This is a crucifix, or the start of a crucifix. I don't want that. So what I'm gonna look to do is I'm gonna look to bump my hips into it a little bit as I move my hips away, creating this slight gap. I'll show it from a different angle in a second. My left elbow will then shoot through as I hug the knee and immediately connect my head right to his thigh. Okay? Keeping a rigid spine, guys. Look at my posture real quick. I'm not arching my back. Okay, that's bad posture. So I have a rigid spine here. My butt is flared out. My head is up. I'm no longer looking at the ground. If my head looks down, he starts to access my neck as a lever and break my posture. So I want to be rigid, okay? Again, once you're here, if you know how to wrestle on the knees, go for it, okay? A good finish, you could just reach for the opposite knee and drive into him. That's a fine way to finish. Or if he's a little bit more like scrambling and moving, then we might just wrestle, whoa, all right, wrestle up to the feet. Come on, out there, coach. All right, we might just wrestle back up to the feet, and then we're just in a single leg position here, and we can just finish the single like you may know how. Okay, so again, this one's just gonna be a little bit more nebulous. I just want you guys to remember that if you can get that underhook, use that underhook. I want to show it from the rear so you can see how I'm using that bump, guys. Remember, dead toes lowers my center of gravity, makes me harder to move. Live toes gives me more base, allowing me to push off the floor. So when I do the bump, I gotta have live toes. So I'm gonna bump my hips forward just slightly as I change my hip angle and bring that underhook in between us. I'm not looking to go up high. I'm just looking to hug the knee and immediately come here for the single leg. Rigid spine, butt out. I don't wanna be sagging here. Active toes, and now again, choose how you wanna finish. Personally, since I'm a guard player, I'd look to just start to sit back because I'm a dirty guard puller and then just play guard from there. Alternatively though, we could be looking for the far side knee pinch, hooking the ankle and the knee and coming out, okay? So I'll show one more time without talking. Let's do from the front again. All right, and once you're here, you're all done and you guys can finish however you'd like. Okay, any questions, guys? I'll pantomime it one more time real quick. So I'm down, good posture, good alignment. So I bump my hips forward, change my hip angle, the side arm comes through, look for the knee pit, gable grip palm to palm, and remember, I'm pulling myself to them, okay? My back is rigid, my head is upright, and their knee is in my chest, and then you can finish however you want. Once I'm in that position though, guys, you're safe, okay? They're not gonna be able to take your back because they're not gonna be able to get that near far side hook in, okay? We're like, once we're here, as long as I have this, he's not gonna take my back, okay? Any questions?
Sir.
Ready, 1, 2, give it a go. Okay, so we're gonna address the elephant in the room. We're gonna talk about probably the least efficient version of escaping the turtle. It's normally called the Judo Roll because it's used a lot in judo. I first want to explain why this is not an efficient way to escape the turtle. It's not efficient because it relies on our opponent being bad at using turtle. It relies generally on our opponent having terrible alignment and leaning over really hard to one side, allowing us to roll them over. Again, we don't like to base our training off of bad opponents. We like to base our training on good reactions, good opponents, because if you have the ability to roll with someone who's really good, you're gonna be able to go with someone really bad way easier, right? So what I mean is this: if he's in the top turtle and so we'll add this into context. We went over the spiral ride last week where he was catching inside the thigh here and he's looking to pull my knee open to pull me out my base. As he's going for the spiral ride, if he goes, yeah, I could keep the hand over the shoulder, go ahead and switch to the attack base, coach. Yeah, he's here, he's going for that spiral ride. If he's doing something really simple, really silly, like driving his elbow way too deep and leaning way far forward, he's gonna allow us to catch his elbow and roll him over like this. But again, this is assuming that our opponent has terrible alignment. They don't understand how to maintain base posture structure. They allow us to break their structure by catching that elbow, and they allow us to roll them over, which won't happen too often against a skilled opponent. However, if it does happen, you should know how to do a judo roll. So we'll start super simple. We'll just start, he's on the side, he has connections here. All right, commonly with that spiral ride, that's where we would look to catch and hook onto the wrist here. But for the simplicity's sake, we can just start with the seatbelt grip. As I'm hooking onto this elbow here, if he is in chest to spine, but he's leaning forward that way, I hope you guys can see, this is very bad on his part. He has terrible alignment. All I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start to cut my far knee in between us. All right, so come on up there, coach. I'm gonna look to cut this knee in between us, almost like I'm doing a sideways knee cut motion. And as I do that, I'm gonna be dropping the far side shoulder down, okay? So I'm gonna cut, drop the far side shoulder down, and again, we come into that same position that we went to in the beginning. They'll either sit there, in which case we can settle into the bottom scarf, or they'll look to take the back, in which case we'll scrape, and then we'll go back to half guard. So again, top person, lean that way. That's not a good thing, but again, we're assuming that they don't know really what they're doing. We're just gonna be reaching back, and we're gonna be hooking onto their elbow here, okay? If it was the gi, we could grab the gi, okay? That's a really easy grip to get. If it's a no gi, we're just gonna be hooking, and then pulling our palm into our belly here. Again, I don't just want to do a barrel roll, okay, where I just kind of like roll over like a log, because if I do that, it's not going to have the same effect as cutting that knee across, because that's going to be changing my hip angle much more violently, causing him to flip over top of me much quicker, okay? So again, as I'm here, I'm leaning. This knee replaces that knee as I come underneath him. Once we're in this position, my elbow comes across, and I start to sit up. I'll show it from the rear. So he's on my back. He's made the mistake of overcommitting. He's leaning too far that way. Because he's doing this, my hips start to come up. My far knee cuts through, like I'm trying to touch my knee to his knee, this knee right here. As I do that, I roll and I come up out on the other side. So again, by hooking onto the elbow like this, I'm getting really, really powerful shoulder lever control, because by holding onto this, as I rotate, his shoulder comes with me. So this could be a little bit dangerous on the shoulder, so just be gentle when you actually hit that roll. But again, they should basically give you this one because they're breaking their own alignment. They're leaning forward. Okay, so one more time. I'll go slow motion without talking. And we'll end up here. All right. Again, this is kind of, I won't say like a Hail Mary, but this is, again, one that relies on them doing bad things, them not doing the correct stuff from the top. So when that's the case, when you feel that shift across your body, you can try to hit this judo roll and take them over. Okay, guys? Any questions? That's why this is the last one we're going to do for the turtle escapes, because honestly, it's the one that relies on bad technique as opposed to our own movement and getting back to a better position.
But it's good to threaten with. Come back and hook that elbow. That'll cause them to move a lot of the time because they know that you're going to get control of them. So it's good to understand that from here you can reach back if they got that underhook and look for that.
All right, guys. Any questions on this one? Yeah, buddy. Do you want me to explain it or just do it? All right, man. I'll pantomime it one time for you, Luke. So I'm here. I feel he's leaning this way, so you'll feel like their weight start to come onto your right hip. So you're just going to reach back. Don't reach back with your arm. Okay, this is a good point, Luke. If I reach back with my arm, he's going to have the tendency to catch it. So I'm leading with the elbow and then hooking with my elbow. Okay? And then as I'm getting ready to move, my hips come up. I drive that knee through and roll over. Okay, as opposed to this, Luke. All right, that's a log roll. I don't want you to log roll. I want you to take this knee, cut it through, a little bit more of like a sudden rotation with that lever control on the shoulder. You'll flip them real quick. Cool? Oh, yeah.
A good way to start this one, guys, if you have trouble with that shoveling motion, because it does take a little bit of practice, you get the grip, and then just try it by just bringing your knees together and leaning this way. It's like a mini version of what Ray just did. All right, so if you're having trouble shoveling that knee through, then simply close up your base so there's nothing holding up anything that's over here. This makes it easy to feel the motion a little bit better. You can use it to start with that. and then move into the shovel. Or if you find the shovel really, really difficult, that can suffice sometimes.
Alrighty, guys. On to 1, 2.